Okay, so you're the urban planner in your city that's been tasked to help improve low-income housing. And so one of the things that you've decided upon is maybe providing a subsidy to those individuals who need low-income housing. And so you provide this subsidy to low-income house searchers, and it didn't take very long. You start to realize that, man, there's a lot of low-income housing being built, but now the pricing is through the roof, and the people it's intended for can no longer even afford it. So the subsidy's not doing any good. Well, hang on and hang tight through the video. I'll explain to you exactly why in just a second. Okay, so I've always said that planners create economies, and whether they know it or not, that's what they do. And so policies that either tax people buying homes, or policies that where we give housing incentives to people to come into the area in low income housing, they have a very different effect on the economy. And so this video actually talks about that. Now, it's actually a little small segment out of a much larger video that I did, and I left a link to that down in the description below if you'd like to watch it. And it covers lots of different subjects, and by the way, it kind of all goes together, so it's actually good for you to watch. I've also provided some other links in there as well to other videos that help explain a few things that we talk about in here, because we don't really remember. It's a snippet of the original video. So one reoccurring theme that you're going to see in here is this little green triangle that shows up, and that's called dead weight loss. Now, we really don't explain that in this video. Other videos do, but real quickly, all dead weight loss is the benefit lost to society because of policy that's been created by planners. Okay, and you can't avoid it. It's not anything that you can do. It's not a bad thing, but what you can do is actually minimize that. And so policy tools should be used with that in mind. Okay, so the first thing we're actually going to look at, though, in this next video is what happens if we tax a person buying housing in the community rather than a developer. Okay, and then the second video actually answers the question in the introduction as to what happens when we actually give maybe housing vouchers or money to people coming into the area to incentivize them to buy low-income housing. After we're done, I'll tell you about some takeaways you should get from that video. And I hope, if you would, please hit the like button if you like the video. And we'd really love it if you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification if you want to see more videos like this come at you, all right? Or as they come out. All right, enjoy the video.
So let's go to our next one. So here is where we're increasing the price to the consumer. So let's say, for instance, we say, okay, Mr. Consumer, so let's go back here. Once again, we have our upward supply line, downward sloping demand line, which is where the consumer comes in and they're buying a house, or they're buying a building, or they're trying to rent property, whatever the case may be. So this goes along in the housing policy right here. When you increase the cost because you make them buy a license, or you hit some type of impact fee, some type of taxing situation to it, you lower the amount of money they have to be able to spend in the market. Okay, they don't have as much money in the market to be able to spend because you've added to this tax. Notice we have the same triangle appears, right? And once again, okay, we have turned around and said that this one's going to have a different impact. So our Q1 shifts to the left, which means we have less quantity in the market. But when you turn around and you tax the consumer like that, you've also taken the price, which was originally at equilibrium here, and you made the value even less. So now the value of that land has gone down. So when you tax a consumer, you lose taxing revenue down the road because the value of the property is less. So this is where economists come in and talk about this dead weight loss that you have to really be careful with. Who are you applying the impact fee, tax, or whatever extra cost to? As we saw in our previous model, it's sometimes better to do that with a supplier because it doesn't have the same impact. So as a matter of fact, I'll go back and take a look at this one more time. So if you notice that if I put a tax on the supplier, the price went up. and so therefore the value of your properties went up, and you're obviously, if your taxing revenue is tied to that, then you're going to get more tax revenue. All right, so here we're going to take a look at it from a different point of view. We're going to again look at it from the municipality decreasing the cost to the consumer. Okay, so once again, we have our regular supply line. We have our downsloping demand line. Okay, at Q1 is where the margin is. That's where it's going to come at. That's the intersection. So the quantity is Q1. When we give some type of subsidy to the demander, the person looking to purchase the land or to rent the land, it has a very different effect. So when you're going out and you're giving grant money to somebody who's low income housing or something of that nature, you're going to have a very different outcome than what you think. This is where economists try to improve the situation for you, but that's where this model also tells the story. Okay, so here we go. If we give a subsidy to the person that's buying the land or purchasing the land, we've given them more money to be able to go out into the market and buy with, right, or rent with. So what this does is it shifts the demand line up and to the right. Let's see what it does to our quantity. It takes our quantity, one, and it shifts it to the right, which means we also have more supply in the market. What that means, more developers are going to come in and build more housing. Okay, maybe something along those lines if it were housing. But what is that going to do to the price of that? Here was our original price at the intersection of demand and supply. Now it's going to increase our price to the consumer. And oftentimes that's not what you're trying to get done. This is where tax policy needs to follow a little bit closer to the economic model. So here, if you're giving a tax incentive to the person going out to rent the land or rent the property or buy the land, you've actually given them more money in the market, and that drives up the price. Okay. All right. So let's look at our last.
All right. So some of the key takeaways you should take away from that video. That was a double. Okay. So let me try that again. Some of the key takeaways from that video should be what taxing policy or system you should use in the area with respect to people buying property that will spur the economy or slow it down. So again, we use taxing policy, whether it's given a voucher or some type of money to a person buying property. We use that as like either a braking system or an accelerator. So what you should have picked up on the video is that when you tax the person buying property, you're going to start seeing the values of the property go down and the supply go down. Now, why is that? Well, in the video we showed that when you tax a person buying property, they don't want to come to your area. And if they don't want to come to your area, there's not enough housing sells, and so there's less quantity on the market. Now, remember, this is all done in the short term, not long term. So when you make this policy, this happens like immediately afterwards, okay? The other side happens as well. So if you give an incentive to a consumer to go out and go buy property, well, all of a sudden, you're just going to have a whole lot of property become available to be purchased, and the price is going to go up, which is kind of not what you're wanting if you're trying to help out low-income housing. So hopefully you learned a lot, and you can apply these simple tools into some of your modeling as you go forward in your planning. All right, thank you. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave on the end card the next suggested videos for you to go watch. Have a great day.